Good morning and welcome. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on a hump day. Yeah, happy Wednesday. I hope it finds you well out there as we're wrapping up November. What an end. What an end to the month of November. Gold and silver, no shock, right? Yeah, up again. The dollar having trouble. Bonds continuing to fall as now even the billionaires are saying we got to have rate cuts. Third quarter GDP revisions. You're not going to believe it's incredible. Everybody and their mother now says, yeah, we're cutting rates. GDP, which was 4.9% the first reading. Now, this is the second reading. 5.2%. Now, this was third quarter, so that quarter is over. And fourth quarter is going to, it's going to be a lot worse than that, but kind of amazing, isn't it? How can you have GDP of 5.2% and everyone's calling for a rate cut? Well, we're going to tell you how, and it all has to do with a printing press that seems to be, well, it's not running out of ink, right? The printing press has got plenty of ink. What it is running out of, it's running out of buyers, and that's why you're seeing gold doing what it's doing. 800-951-0592. That is our toll-free number. Of course, you know what we do. The physical delivery of wealth insurance, talking about gold and silver. AllAmericanGold.com is the website. Don't forget, follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Rumble. Give us the thumbs up. Give us the thumbs up. Share it with everybody. Go out there and share it with your friends, your neighbors, so they can get educated as well. You know, yesterday, one of the guys that was leaving in some comments, I kind of took a friendly shot at him. He took it really well, by the way. And that's what it's all about. I think a lot of us, most of us, we see things a lot alike. And today, another day, I mean, look at the bond yields. 4.28. Yeah, you heard me right. 4.28. Incredible. Bill Ackerman now saying rate hikes sometime between January and March is going to be the first rate hike. Listen, I'm just going to say this. It's funny that they're starting to target this. You know, you're hearing a lot, well, first quarter, January, February, March. Remember the show Jason and I did last week? I think it was last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. Things get very interesting in February, especially at the end of February, right? The reverse repo, right, will be pretty much out of money, and that just means, okay, that's probably the biggest source of bond buying, treasury, like today. We got an auction going on this morning. We got an auction going on this afternoon. By the way, yesterday, 7-year auction, another disaster. Right? We haven't seen. Somebody wrote an article. It was on Drudge, and I forget who wrote it, and I apologize. I'll look it up and give them credit for it. But they're talking, Jason, this is the worst bond market since the Civil War.
I've heard that. From a few guys I've been watching that the bond market is bad. You know, I've been looking at these 40-year cycles when it comes to interest rates, Joe, and we're looking at the beginning, possibly, if this is matching up, of a 40-year interest rate hike cycle where it goes up and up and up for about 40 years. From the early 80s to about 2020. Rates were just going down. I mean, they go up and down over the course of a cycle, but generally the line goes down. Before 1980, from World War II to 1980, rates slowly but surely kept going up. And we know what happened. We know what happened at the end of that 40 years. Inflation, right? We went off the gold standard, all that, the petrodollar, all that stuff was happening at the end of a rate hiking cycle. We may be in a place, Joe, where financially things are going to almost reverse and change drastically in the months and years to come.
It's going to be really interesting how all of this plays out, because when we look at what the demand for treasuries is. It continues to just deteriorate. I mean, we're talking, problems with a 2-year note auction, right? Problem with a 7-year note auction, right? These are things that are new. Remember Stan Druckenmiller saying, what was Janet Yellen thinking? Why didn't we load up on all this cheap long-term debt? And of course, people are out there, it would have caused chaos and all this stuff. Listen, here's the problem. Look at GDP. That's the greatest example. You know why GDP was 5.2%? It had nothing to do with, oh my gosh, the consumer. Yeah, look at what we're. No. I mean, a lot of it was inflation. That's true. But the big number, it was government spending. That was the huge increase in GDP. And again, Jason, when we look at what's happening right now, they've done the budget resolutions, right? Keeping spending going, of course, to win. Oh, that's right, January, February, right? There's not these dates keep popping up. But as an example, foreigners' holdings of U.S. debt, it just continues to evaporate. At one point, that China and Japan at one point, like 10 years ago, not like, oh my gosh, 100 years ago, no, 10 years ago, they held over 20% of our debt. That number's down to 7 and falling. And that's a big problem. Patriot Radio News Hour. Jason and I, we're going to be right back. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason here on this Wednesday. Quick look at the markets. The Dow's everything's pretty flat. The Dow's up 20. The S&P's up 5. The Nasdaq's up 17. I told you about the bond market falling even further. 427. I don't mean to laugh, but this is why. Think about this. The bond market's not supposed to move like this. This is supposed to be like a glacier. It barely moves. Matter of fact, it's only supposed to move when the Fed says we're raising rates or we're cutting rates. Right now, the Fed's saying we're not doing anything. But this big fall in rates, look at the effect in the last, 2 weeks? The auctions at the Treasury auctions have been horrendous, and not just we're used to it in the longer term. Now it's even the shorter term. Crude oil's up a little bit. Gold's up. Gold 2,045, up about $5. Silver's up above $25 right now. And again, I think this is just one of these things that. What are all these guys really seeing? Because you know what they're not seeing? They're not seeing 5% GDP. Matter of fact, government spending real terms. And I don't know how, if they're allegedly spending the same. It's up 5%. 5%, and it just doesn't stop, and yet nobody wants to buy. Now, this is why we keep talking about something's getting ready to break. It would really, 2024, when you've got guys like Ackerman saying rate cuts, no later than March. And you're like, what? I mean, it's almost December. And, I do the data every day. It's not great, right? The retailers haven't been great. But it isn't horrible, right? It's not like we got 300,000 people a week losing their jobs, at least not yet. But see, they know what's coming. They just don't want necessarily everybody else to know what's coming. That's why we talk about why refi, right? Something that isn't correlated to Wall Street. Listen, you need to have your gold and silver. If you haven't had gold and silver, be an idiot. What do I care? Not my problem. That's your problem. and having it physically at your house, yeah, it's going to become real important with the digital currency. I don't need to tell you what's coming, right? The IMF, come on, the IMF already got their handbook. Yeah, we got it all ready. It's all ready to go. And you need to have that. Someone's got to be looking out for your investment. That's where Joey comes in, right? But then, hey, something that's not correlated to the stock market and gives you a high fixed rate of return, up to 10.25%. Yeah, I get it. It would be great if everyone could invest with Y Refi. That's not, the government doesn't allow it. Y Refi would love it, but the government doesn't allow it. They have rules. One of the big rules, you got to have at least $50,000. But if you got more than $50,000, call them. 888-Y-REFI-24. That's 888-Y-REFI-24. Or just go to YREFI.com. That's the letter Y, REFY.com, right? It's simple. Check it out. Find out if you're allowed to do it. By all means, what a great rate at 10.25%. Yeah, hey, I'll take that every day of the week. But Jason, third quarter GDP revised 5.2%. The government spending a boatload while the treasury market's continuing to have trouble. But how about this today? You think the spending's done? Out of Politico, the Pentagon says it has no money for the buildup in the Middle East. And the Defense Department says that the government is going to have to find some money because the Pentagon said, hey, between what we're doing in Ukraine and now the Middle East and all the other stuff we do, we're going to need more money.
Everybody needs more money, right? Yeah, when you got the Ponzi scheme, you got the Federal Reserve System and the world exchange currency, which is the dollar. When things start to go wrong, everybody needs more of it, needs more of it. And what we're looking at, Joe, now is people, countries, investors are leery of, well, I'll take 5% interest or I'll take 8% interest. They're still worried about, well, I don't know if I want that. I don't know if I want future dollars. Looking like everybody's wanting now dollars. And I think purposefully, this is the time when the Fed is printing the least amount of dollars since our lifetimes, Joe. This is the least amount of printing they've done in the last couple of years after 2020. They're actually slowly but surely. There's a little bit that's coming off the books. There's a little bit less cash. And when you take, the addicted world to dollars and you cut off the spigot, there's still lots of dollars floating around, but there's no new dollars coming in, at least not at this moment. And so people want their dollars now, and they're a little worried about, well, okay, I'll buy some treasuries and I'll get my interest year to year to year. I don't think countries and investors, Joe, are wanting that right now. And I think that's why there's so much problems. And whatever's going to happen to 2024 is going to happen. And that's going to change how people are going to be buying treasuries or dollars. I mean, the number with Japan that you mentioned in the last segment, that's a big number. 20% of the debt owned by Japan now down to 7%. Japan obviously has made some changes.
China
Joe.
and Japan, yeah,
China and Japan,
and they're still selling. They're still getting rid of them. And now the Pentagon saying, hey, by the way, here's what they said. Here's what was even better. They said, well, the continuation that you're doing from 2023, well, for 2024, well, we've already spent that. And, oh, by the way, the president had requested additional monies, right? Remember that? Yeah. What was that, $110 billion?
Yep.
We've spent that. That hadn't even been approved. And hold on, wait, there's more. Right? It's like those TV infomercials. But wait, there's more. They still said they're still adding all the expenses tied to the quote-unquote surprise terrorist attack in Israel, and they said that, hey, we're going to need even more than that. So we're going to need more than the continuation of spending. We're going to need more than what Joe Biden asked for. Oh, and by the way, we still haven't quite finished the calculations of just how much more we're going to need.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm still thinking, well, how did Japan and China subtract so much of American debt off their books? And the only thing I can come up with is, well, who's buying it? Who's picking up the slack? And it's got to be the Fed. Even though the Fed's balance sheet's going down, Joe, that doesn't mean they've stopped buying completely. That just means that they're selling more than they're buying. So I'm wondering when Japan and China really need to get rid of it. I'll bet the Fed is still buying a bunch of this, Joe. I'll bet that's what's happening. I bet the Fed that balance sheet is not, hey, we cut it off, we're not buying anymore. I haven't heard that fact. I haven't heard the Fed say they're not buying stuff anymore. We just hear that the Fed's balance sheet's going down, trying to get rid of it. So it's very interesting, Joe, because what if the Fed's balance sheet was zero? What if they were not able to do what they did? Where would we be today?
Yeah, and it's something where probably in a better spot. You know where we'd be today if their balance sheet was still $700 billion? We wouldn't be talking about inflation. That's for damn sure. But again, if you listen to these guys talk, and guys, these billionaires that they parade out on the cheerleading stations, they're not just talking about rate cuts. Right? They're talking about the Fed needs to stop quantitative easing. A bunch of them are saying, let's just stop buying. They just need to start buying again. Because you know what they never say? Well, we got to cut spending. Right? I mean, wait a minute. What's the problem? Well, the problem is we've got all this debt we need to sell, and we just don't have enough buyers. And the lower we bring the rates, the less these people want to buy it. Because look at what's happened in things have gotten worse in the last 3 weeks.
Well, it's funny you talk about government.
Jason, does anybody say, well, geez, let me think about that.
Yeah.
Maybe we should spend less money. That way we'd have to sell less debt. So then maybe we wouldn't have to. Nobody's saying that.
Well, you talked about government spending, and then you talked about the billionaires. Those two entities are doing completely the opposite. What are the billionaires doing? They're selling. They're selling their own stock. And the government's spending. And let's face it, the only entity here that can afford to be a loser is the government. Because the government can just, come up with whatever they need out of thin air, right, Joe? Even though Jeff Bezos and Jamie Dimon, even though they're very powerful, they still... They can't just go to the Fed and say, print me up some money directly. They can't do it directly. They can influence, but they can't directly do that. So the government spending, obviously it's the wrong thing to be doing right now, Joe.
Think about this. Think about what's really happening here. And let's wake up for a minute. This isn't an accident. It's no accident. Obviously, if the government wasn't going to go, $2.5 trillion into debt this year, right? If it was just $1 trillion, which would still be an outrageous amount of money, right? It'd be Armageddon, right? Wall Street would be crashing, right? Everyone would be running around with their hair on fire. Like this is the only thing we have. We have to do it. Right, COVID, we had to spend all that money, and when COVID was over, we still had. Now the Pentagon's saying, hey, continuing to spend that money's not enough money. It's not enough money. They're threatening. Listen to this. The Pentagon's out threatening. We're going to have to cut. We're going to have to lay people off if you don't give us more money. These continuing resolutions, that's just not getting it done. But then think about this. I don't know. Call me crazy. The IMF magically has their digital central bank digital currency handbook. Have you been paying attention to the stuff coming out of the UN? Has anyone been looking? They're talking about digital IDs, linked to social credit scores, and they want it done by 2030, right? Agenda 2030, right? They keep ramping it, right? They keep ramping it up, don't they? There's a new book out, the control oligarchs, right? I love that word, the control oligarchs, exposing the billionaire class, their secret deals, and the globalist plot to dominate your life. You guys should check this out. Seamus Burner is the guy that put it together. But he talks about Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, George Soros, Zuckerberg, right? Think about these guys that have, the whole technology wave. When you think about Gates and Bezos, Zuckerberg, right, all at the forefront of this thing. You think they really, it's so funny. You think Jeff Bezos cares about climate change? Do you? You think he does? Did you see the yacht that guy's got? It's so big, he can't park it at the regular yacht yard. No. He's got to go where the oil tankers are. They're so big. Yeah, he doesn't care. What he cares about is controlling us. We'll be back. 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason, Patriot News Hour. Got an incredible special today in silver. Rolls of silver $50. I just got a huge opportunity here. We had 3 bags of $50. So I wish it was more, but it's 300 rolls of $50. We're gonna limit everybody to half a bag. So the most you can buy is 50 rolls. Silver $50 rolls, they were $240, but on this deal today, you're gonna save $20 a roll. And that's almost $3 an ounce savings on it. $50 at this price are cheaper than dimes or quarters, and is also the lowest price that you can buy U.S. government hallmarked silver. Yesterday, silver's $25. I told you yesterday. Cases of Silver Eagles were going to 16,000, right? Rolls of Silver Eagles, $655 a roll. You want cheaper government hallmark silver, this is it, the $50. And really, when you talk about utility silver, junk silver, the dimes, the quarters, the halves. The halves is kind of like they're the upper class of the utility silver market, right? The dimes and the quarters, right? They're the working class. The $50, they're kind of the upper class. They always carry big premiums. Normally, you're going to pay an extra $10 to $20 a roll for $50 compared to dimes and quarters. So silver rolls of silver $50, $220 a roll. Like I said, you can buy up to 50 rolls, or that's half a bag. That'd be $11,000 for half of a bag of $50, or you can just buy them by the roll. 800-951-0592. And again, don't think, but you think they're creating this digital currency because, well, it's just more convenient. And, the bad guys out there, those guys with cash, I mean, come on, they're all terrorists, right? They're all drug dealers, right? I know more terrorists than drug dealers. I don't, FBI, CIA, whoever's listening, Homeland, I don't know any. I do know a lot of people that think it's none of your business what they buy. I do know that. But you think they're doing that? No, this has been the plan. Because they know, listen, fiat money dies. It's what it does. It's what it always does. That's actually, believe it or not, most people don't get this. That's what it's designed to do. Eventually, you print too much of it, and all of a sudden, look at where we're at, and this is where we're at. We didn't know what the number was. You know, when the debt hit $1 trillion in 1981, think about that. Is that 42 years ago? Do you know that if you add the Fed's balance sheet to the U.S. debt, because it's the same, right? They're the same debt. That would mean we've added $1 trillion of debt every year for the last 40-some years. Yet they've only admitted to deficits of over $1 trillion just recently, right? That tells you how bad, how fast it's happening. Because we weren't running. I mean, we had some fake budget surpluses in the 90s. I can't even remember. I want to say the first $1 trillion budget deficit, wasn't that the financial crisis? First time we even admitted to that? But here's what's simple. They're doing it for control, and they've told us about it. How long have we heard about Agenda 2030? For a long time. It's been out there. It's happening right in front of our face. You know, remember when we were talking about the Amero? God, I feel dumb now. I do. I feel so dumb. Yes, we're going to get the Amero because, you know, the dollar's, you know, it's not enough. Not enough buying power, right? It's like we got to have more. Got to be like the euro. Idiot. Believe me, they already knew about the digital currency. They were probably like, look at this idiot talking about an Amero. Please. We got way bigger plans than that, Jason, right?
Well, and I think that the Amero was a goal. It was a step in the progression, and just like Brexit happened, you know, years and years and years after the euro, right? The Amero just didn't have enough footing. But it doesn't matter. I can go back. One of these shows, I'll just talk about 1800s presidents, which kind of sounds boring. But if you focus it in on which presidents were banker backed and which ones were concerned about the citizenry, you start to get a clear picture as to what the bankers were doing. Yeah, they had a goal. They wanted a central bank. They lost it in 1835. They got it back in 1913. That doesn't mean the bankers stopped in 1835. They tried for that 80 years to get their central bank the entire time. So the Amero, I would say, was actually very successful. It got it in the mindset of a lot of people. Well, this is a world system. This is a world system. We don't need sovereignty. You know, Central Americans, they need jobs. They should just come on over here. We got plenty of that they need to do here. We have less Americans anyway, so it's all tied together. It's all tied together. What they want you to see, they will show you. What they don't want you to see, you will not see unless you tune into shows like this and other shows that are on the station, Joe.
Well, and just think about it. Think about some of the names involved, these billionaires. The captains of it, they control huge segments. Think about how hand in hand they worked with the government now when it comes to anything, right? Started with the airport, right? Oh, yeah, go ahead, frisk everybody, pat them down, do all that stuff. We don't care. How many of these big corporations, everybody's got to get the shots. You can't work here without the shots. Right? They're doing the government. What did I tell you about cash? Well, I'm going to have to really ban it. Walmart will take care of that. Jeff Bezos will take care of it. Amazon doesn't take cash anyway. Right? Yeah, everything's by a credit card. Right? They're just going to stop taking it. And, of course, when you actually read what their objectives are, they want a digital ID. They want to link it to things like a social credit score or carbon footprint, whatever you want to place, something that they can use to lord over all of us. And this is why, listen, gold and silver is going to get really, really popular to get things that you want to get in life without people knowing about it. And the price is going to be a lot more expensive than 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour, Joe and Jason. Make sure to get out there to YouTube and Rumble. Like our page, share our page, give us the thumbs up. By the way, one call, half bag already gone. We're down to 2.5 bags left on $50. Remember, we're putting a 50-roll limit today. That's the most you can buy. It would be $11,000. Rolls at $50. You can buy one. They're $220. $220. You're saving $20 a roll. That's 20 silver $50. So it's a $10 face value roll. 20 silver $50. That means pre-1965. 1964 and older, silver $50, U.S. government hallmarked, cheaper than you can buy $10 of dimes or $10 of quarters today at $220. And like I said, the maximum you can buy 50 rolls, which is $11,000 at 800-951-0592. And this latest book by Bruner that's out, talking about what they really want to achieve. The idea behind this digital ID. It all goes with global warming, right? And the spending, remember the Biden Inflation Reduction Act, right? And all that nonsense. And then linking it to a credit score. Now they're saying a social credit score, but a credit score. There are credit cards that already track your carbon purchases. I mean, who pays cash for gas anymore? I hardly ever see that. It happens a little bit. But by and large, what does everyone do? You go to the pump, right? You put your card in, right? Pump your gas. Because you're like, I don't want to walk all the way in there, wait in line, then have them screw it up and put it on the wrong pump or what. I don't even know what pump number I'm on, right? You just stick your card in there. And what they want to do now is just add that in. If you spend too much money on fuel, if you spend too much money on carbon-based products, your credit score goes down. It's just that simple. They want to bring about, and this is, 15-minute cities, right? All of these things that we talk about on the half-empty cup. A renter-based economy. Listen, they cannot build all these electric cars. It's not possible. Plus, how are you going to charge them all? I mean, unless we're going to bring back coal power plants, there's not enough power for everyone. Everyone's going to plug in their car. I'm going to plug in my Tesla when I get home from work today. Oh, wait a minute. I live in an apartment complex. They've got a single charging station. Right? I don't know. Where is this going to happen? Now, they don't want you to own a home. Hell, they don't want you to own a car. This is just what the realities are. They came out, we talked about it yesterday. The amount of carbon usage that they say we need to be at per person is a little over 2 tons for a year. Now, that sounds like a lot. Oh, 2 tons? I don't use 2 tons. 2 tons is like one plane trip to Europe. Okay? And that's not going, that's just going there. That's just going there. They don't want us to have cars. They don't want us to own anything, right? The 15-minute city, you're going to walk or ride your bike. Unless, right, Jason, what do we say, of course? Unless you can afford to pay the tax, right? We'll have the tax for the rich people, but you're going to live in places owned by BlackRock. Think I'm kidding? You think that's BS? Well, guess what BlackRock said yesterday? They said, we are going to, there's going to be significant reforms, they said, in the public sector and public financial institutions. Oh, what? What? Excuse me? Significant reform in financial institutions? You don't think they know? Oh, and by the way, we're going to pony up another $4 trillion in decarbonization investments. Yeah, not $4 billion. No, Jason, $4 trillion. So BlackRock letting you know two things. Hey, by the way, this financial stuff, there's going to be significant changes. And oh, by the way, we're going to invest $4 trillion in decarbonization. Wake up. What do you think that means?
You know, I'll compare the carbon stuff to the Amero that you said last segment. These are the ways to control what people are doing and how they're going to, how and where they're going to put their money, Joe. You know, that's exactly all carbon offsets are. You know, it's funny. It's funny what the companies that are doing the best with the green energy are the oil companies. They're sitting so great with the green energy offsets and things. They're way ahead on all of that. All of the biggest polluters, so-called, and the ones that are worst for the environment are all sitting in the best positions. Right, Joe? And why do I get the feeling solar companies are going to be worst at it? They just think that they're entitled, right? But who has to drive those solar panels to the sites? What country is making those solar panels? But yet the oil companies are sitting in it. They're very green as far as the money says, Joe.
800-951-0592. Jump on the silver $50. I mean,
yeah.
Wait till we're talking about silver at $50, right? Hey, by the way, I got rolls of silver $50 for $500. I'll buy them for $220. 800-951-0592. Jason and I, we're wrapping it up right after this. $800-951-0592. Joe and Jason, I got one line open right now. 800-951-0592. Rolls of silver $50, saving $20 today at $220 a roll. We're putting a limit of 50, so 50 is the most you can buy. We just don't have that many. We had 3 bags, then there's 2 bags. Next thing you know, there's going to be no bags. I mean, that's just
Joe,
how it's going.
At $220 a roll, at 3 rolls of $660, that's barely more than our rolls of Silver Eagles, and you're getting almost 21.5 ounces of silver in the $50. So essentially, you know, and $50 have a high premium, especially versus the quarters and dimes. So you're getting 1.5 ounces of silver above a Silver Eagle roll for $5. You know, so it's a good way. These big coins are pretty cool to have. They're just more and more expensive. That's why we don't sell the silver dollars as much. The premiums on silver dollars, it's just harder and harder to get them at a cheap price, Joe.
Yep. Those Morgan and Peace dollars, they get really, really expensive. 800-951-0592. Gold's up 4 right now, 20.44. Silver's up 10 cents, 25.02 right now on silver. And, showing their cards right in front of us. Right? Exactly what the plan is. Is there any accident that who in their right mind says, we got to keep spending at COVID levels? That's what our government's done. As a matter of fact, now the Pentagon's saying, oh my gosh, poor us. We don't have any more money. This continuing resolution, that doesn't work. Right? We're out of money. And at the same time, people are turning away from the dollar. Period. Just look at these auctions. And the lower the 10-year note goes, seems like the less these people want to buy it. It would just make sense. Hey, wait a minute. Last month I was getting 5.5%. Now you want to give me 4.5%? Yeah, nah, I'm not interested. I didn't even want it at 5.5%.
It's almost like they're buying gold now. People they buy it and buy it when it's going up, and then it goes down a little bit, and everyone stops buying gold when it goes down a little bit, and then waiting around to see, well, is it going to go lower? 'Cause that's what's going on, Joe. They don't want to buy when interest rates have dropped a little bit. Well, I could have bought it for higher interest rates a little while ago. I got to wait for them to come back up. We don't know what's going to happen by next year. So yeah, this is probably not good for buying bonds, Joe, to have the interest rates drop a little bit, because there's got to be a bunch of hawks out there waiting for it to go back up, right? That's what's happening. So
I don't know the results of the morning auction, but I got a feeling it wasn't so great because the 10-year notes back above 430. Is out. Remember down to 427. So that just tells you, people continuing to not want to buy government debt, and again, after a while, you're like, well, I've got too much of it already, right, Jason? I got too much of it already.
Exactly. But you know what? There's no such thing in my mind as too much silver or gold. It's just savings, and I don't know. If you have too much savings, then that's where charity comes in, right, Joe? So get yourself too much gold and silver, you can give some of it away. Christmas is coming. I'll tell you right now, Christmas is coming. I'm going to start saying this the rest of the year. This is a great thing to give. You look kind of funny as the uncle giving away the silver eagles to the kids. A few years down the road, suddenly they start figuring it out. Some of them, maybe not all of them, they'll figure it out, especially when they go to sell it.
Yeah, absolutely. 800-951-0592. Jason and I, we're coming back with the half-empty cup.